The morning the Heritage Seed Conservancy's white van pulled into her driveway, Nora Kelley was walking her sunflower rows with pruning shears, talking to plants that hadn't bloomed yet. By noon, the co-op board members who'd rejected her flowers as unsellable were calling her cell phone, voices tight with questions she didn't bother answering. 7 months earlier, Nora had stood in the Shenandoah Valley Agricultural Co-op's warehouse, holding a catalog page she'd dog-eared so many times the corner had torn off. "These," she said, sliding it across the desk to Marcus Pemberton, the co-op's crop buyer. "I want to grow these for next season." Marcus squinted at the photo. "What am I looking at?" "Hopi Black Dye sunflowers. Pre-Columbian variety. The seeds came down through indigenous growers for maybe 1,000 years. They're purple. Deep burgundy, technically. The seeds are almost black." Marcus leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head. He'd bought crops from valley farmers for 23 years, which he mentioned in nearly every conversation. "Nora, consumers want yellow sunflowers. Big, bright, cheerful. These look like something died. They're for seed production. Bakers want them. The flavor's distinct, nutty, almost smoky. Nobody around here's asking for weird sunflowers. I'm asking for a contract. 10 acres. I'll handle everything. Planting, maintenance, harvest. You just commit to buying the seeds." He shook his head slowly, the way you'd refuse a child asking for a pony. "Can't do it. Too niche. Too risky. Stick with what works. Yellow sunflowers, standard varieties. We can move those." Nora's hands tightened on the catalog. "The specialty market's growing. Heritage seeds are a hobby for rich people." Marcus stood, signaling the meeting was over. "Look, you're a good grower. Your tomatoes are solid. But this," he tapped the catalog, "this is you trying to be different for different's sake. Plant what sells." She drove home in silence, the catalog on the passenger seat. Her husband Ray was replacing fence posts when she pulled in, his shirt dark with sweat despite the October chill. "Well," he called. He said no. Ray stabbed the post hole digger into the ground. "Figured. I'm planting them anyway." "Nora, 10 acres. Spring planting. With what market?" She looked at him, at the farm that had been in her family for 4 generations, at the fields her grandmother had worked when the county still whispered that women couldn't manage real agriculture. "I'll find one." Ray didn't sleep in the guest room. They didn't have one, but the silence at dinner felt like its own kind of distance. Her daughter Megan called that evening from Richmond. "Mom, Dad texted me. Says you're doing something weird with sunflowers." "Not weird. Intentional. He says you don't have a buyer." "Not yet." A sigh, heavy with the exasperation of a 31-year-old pharmaceutical rep who'd escaped farming specifically to avoid this kind of uncertainty. "Why can't you just grow normal stuff? Work with the co-op like everyone else." "Because everyone else is growing the same 6 things, and the market's saturated. So let them figure it out. Don't be the one who—" Megan stopped. "Who what?" "Nothing. Never mind." But Nora knew. Who stands out? Who makes waves? Who gets talked about at the feed store? She ordered the seeds in December from a conservancy in New Mexico. They arrived in a small padded envelope, 2 pounds of midnight dark seeds, each one carrying genetic memory from centuries of careful cultivation. At the January co-op meeting, Marcus Pemberton announced the crop contracts for spring. Standard sunflowers, yellow, hybrid variety, guaranteed purchase at market rate. 16 farmers signed. Anyone else? Marcus scanned the room. Nora stayed quiet. No point in giving them something to argue about. In the parking lot afterward, Beth Corrigan caught up with her. Beth farmed 300 acres with her 2 sons, grew what the co-op wanted, made decent money doing it. "Heard you're going." "Rope," Beth said. "Heard I'm planting sunflowers. The weird ones. Dark ones. Heirloom ones." Beth's mouth corked. "Marcus is calling them Nora's funeral flowers. Just so you know. Appreciate the heads up. You sure about this? It's a risk." Nora looked across the parking lot at Marcus, standing with Jim Howell and Dave Park, all 3 men laughing about something. "When my grandmother started using drip irrigation in '68, people said she was wasting money. When she started soil testing in '73, they said she was overthinking. She was right both times. Your grandmother was something else. So am I." She planted in April, the dark seeds going into soil she'd prepared all winter. Compost, cover crops, pH adjusted specifically for what these plants needed. Ray helped, wordless but present. The seeds went in at precise spacing, oriented properly, everything by the book she'd studied until the pages went soft. By May, the seedlings emerged, deep green, vigorous, different from anything else in the valley's fields. By June, the neighbors were talking. "Seen Nora's sunflowers?" someone said at the hardware store while she waited for fence staples. "Look diseased," came the reply. "All that dark coloring." She didn't turn around. "Don't argue. Just proceed." The stalks grew tall through June and into July. 8 feet, 9 feet, pushing toward 10, and the whispers grew with them. Nora walked her rows every morning at dawn, checking for pests, adjusting irrigation, watching the plants develop with the focus of someone who'd bet everything on being right. The buds formed in mid-July, tight and dark, unlike anything the valley had seen in commercial production. At the feed store, conversation stopped when she walked in. "Nora," said Pete Chun, who managed the place, "folks are asking about your flowers." "Let them ask. They're saying," he paused, weighing his words, "they're saying the heads look wrong. Like maybe the seeds were bad. The seeds are 1,000 years old." "They're exactly right." Pete rang up her purchase, irrigation fittings, drip line. "Marcus came in yesterday. Said you're gonna lose your shirt." "Marcus isn't buying them, so Marcus can focus on his own crops." "You find a buyer yet?" She met his eyes. "Working on it." But she hadn't. Not really. She'd sent inquiries to specialty food distributors, artisan bakeries, organic co-ops in 3 states. Most didn't respond. The ones that did said interesting, but we'll need to see the product first. The problem? She needed commitment before harvest. Needed someone to guarantee purchase so she could justify the harvest expense, the cleaning equipment, the storage. She was farming on faith and inheritance, and both were finite resources. Ray brought it up over dinner in late July. "Megan called me today." "What did she say?" "That her friend's husband works in agricultural lending. Says we should come in, talk about restructuring." Nora set down her fork. "We're not restructuring. We're not making money on 10 acres of flowers nobody wants to buy. Somebody wants them. I just haven't found them yet. And if you don't?" Before harvest, she looked at him, at the man she'd married 34 years ago, who'd supported her through her father's death, her grandmother's final years, the lean seasons, and the good ones. Who was afraid now, legitimately afraid, because she'd done something he couldn't see the end of. "Then I'll sell them somewhere else. Or press the oil myself. Or figure something out." "That's not a plan, Nora. It's faith." "Faith doesn't pay the mortgage." She went outside after dark, walked the rows with a flashlight. The buds were swelling, days from opening. The plants looked healthy, no disease, no stress, just good clean growth responding to care and attention. Her grandmother's voice, "The land tells you what it needs. You just have to listen past everyone else's noise." The next morning, she photographed the buds, wrote a detailed email to the Heritage Seed Conservancy, an organization she'd found online, dedicated to preserving rare varieties. She explained the genetic line, the planting methods, the way these seeds represented living history. She hit send and went back to work. The co-op's summer meeting happened on a Thursday evening, mandatory for all contracted growers. Nora attended because Ray asked her to, because showing up mattered even when the outcome was predetermined. Marcus stood at the front, reviewing market conditions. "Sunflower contracts are solid. Good prices holding. Everyone who planted with us is looking at decent returns." Jim Howell raised his hand. "What about the non-contract flowers?" "What about them?" "Nora's dark ones. They affecting anything?" Marcus smiled, thin and sharp. "Only Nora's bottom line. Anyone else plant smart." Laughter. Not cruel. Exactly. But comfortable. The sound of people reassuring themselves that conventional wisdom was still wise. Beth Corrigan glanced at Nora, something like sympathy in her eyes. Nora looked straight ahead. After the meeting, Dave Park stopped her in the parking lot. "No offense, Nora, but what were you thinking? No contract, weird variety, no market research." "I did research." "Where? What did you find?" "That everything worth doing looks stupid until it works." Dave shook his head. "Your grandmother would have been smarter than this. My grandmother would have done exactly this." She drove home with the windows down, letting the August heat pour in. The email to the Heritage Seed Conservancy sat unanswered in her inbox. The buds in her field were 2 days from blooming. After that, they'd mature fast, and she'd need to make decisions about harvest timing. Ray was waiting on the porch. How'd it go? About like expected. They're not wrong to be concerned. They're not right either. Nora, Ray, I know you're scared. I am too. But I'm also sure. Does that make sense? He studied her face, looking for something. Not really. Then trust me anyway. Inside, her laptop was open on the kitchen table. She checked email. Nothing from the conservancy. She checked again an hour later. Nothing. She went to bed thinking about her grandmother, about the stories of planting by intuition, of keeping rare varieties alive when everyone said hybrids were the future, about being right and being lonely and how often those things went together. The next morning, she woke to 17 missed calls. The first call was from Marcus Pemberton, the timestamp showing 6:47 a.m. The second was from Beth Corrigan. The third through seventh were numbers she didn't recognize. Nora set the phone down and went outside. The white Heritage Seed Conservancy van was parked in her driveway, and a woman in her 50s was standing at the edge of the sunflower field, camera in hand, photographing the buds in the early light. Mrs. Kelley? The woman turned, hand extended. Dr. Sarah Chun, director of the Heritage Seed Conservancy. I got your email yesterday afternoon. Drove through the night from Asheville. Nora shook her hand, her calloused palm meeting the other woman's firm grip. That's 8 hours. 9. I stopped for coffee twice. Sarah gestured at the field. These are absolutely stunning. May I walk them? Sure. They moved between the rows, Sarah pausing every few feet to examine the developing heads, the stalk structure, the leaf health. She took notes in a battered field journal, her excitement barely contained. The genetic integrity looks incredible, Sarah said. You documented your seed source? New Mexico Conservancy. They traced the line back to a Hopi community garden project in the 80s, but the variety itself is pre-contact. And you maintained isolation? No cross-pollination. Quarter-mile minimum from any other sunflower plantings. I checked every neighboring farm. Sarah stopped walking, turned to face Nora directly. Mrs. Kelley, we'd like to buy your entire crop. Pre-harvest. Every head. For seed. For our preservation program. We'll harvest carefully, process everything ourselves, and use half for our seed bank. The other half goes to contracted growers in our network, small farmers growing rare varieties for specialty markets. She named a price per pound that made Nora's breath catch. That's triple what the co-op pays for standard sunflowers. These aren't standard sunflowers. These are living genetic history, and you've done everything right. Sarah smiled. How soon can we start harvest? Week and a half. Maybe 10 days. Perfect. I'll bring a crew. We'll handle everything. Cutting, transport, processing. You'll get paid on delivery, and we'll want you to sign on as a contract grower. If you can plant 20 acres next season, we'll guarantee purchase. Nora heard herself laugh. A startled, slightly hysterical sound. 20 acres. Minimum. We have other varieties too. Rare tomatoes, ancient beans, heritage grains. You clearly understand how to work with heirloom genetics. Ray appeared from the barn, stopped when he saw the van, the stranger in his field. Nora waved him over, watched his face change as Sarah repeated the offer. 20 acres, Ray said slowly. Next year. Guaranteed, Sarah confirmed. 3-year contract if you want it. After Sarah left, she had 2 other farms to visit, a whole network of preservation projects. Nora and Ray stood in the kitchen, not quite touching, the silence different now. You were right, Ray said finally. I was terrified. But right. Yeah. She poured coffee, her hands steadier than they'd been in months. I need to call Megan. Her daughter answered on the second ring. Mom, what's going on? Mrs. Corrigan's daughter texted me saying something about a seed company at your farm. They're buying the sunflowers. All of them. And they want a contract for next year. Silence. Then, the ugly ones? The funeral flowers? The heirloom ones? The ones Marcus said nobody wanted. Oh my God. Megan's voice cracked. Mom, I'm sorry. For what I said. For doubting. You were being practical. I was being scared for you. But you knew what you were doing. Not always. But I knew enough. The co-op calls. Nora didn't return. Let them wonder. Let them talk. By afternoon, Beth Corrigan showed up in person, parked her truck, and walked straight to the field where Nora was checking irrigation. Is it true? Beth asked. The seed company? Yeah. They're paying triple. About that. Beth whistled low. Marcus is having a stroke. He told Jim Howell he'd have bought them if you'd asked. I did ask. He said they looked like death. He's saying that differently now. Beth studied the sunflower heads, their dark beauty undeniable in the afternoon light. What made you so sure? Nora crouched, pulled a weed, felt the soil between her fingers, alive, responsive, full of the microbial life she'd been building for years. My grandmother used to say that farming isn't about following everyone else. It's about listening to what the land wants to grow and finding someone who values it. That sounds lonely. Sometimes. Nora stood, brushed the dirt from her hands. But I'm not doing anything special, Beth. I'm just paying attention. These seeds existed for centuries because somebody believed they were worth saving. I'm just continuing that. You're making me think, Beth said quietly, about what I'm growing, why I'm growing it. Over the next week, 3 other valley farmers contacted Nora directly, not through the co-op, not asking for anything except information. What do they like to grow? What's the care schedule? Do you think someone like me could try? She answered every question, shared her planting notes, gave them the conservancy's contact information. Ray watched her at the computer, explaining soil prep to a farmer from 2 counties over, and something in his face had shifted, pride, maybe, or recognition. The harvest happened on a clear September morning. Sarah's crew arrived with specialized equipment, handled each head like it mattered. Nora walked the rows with them, showing them the variations, pointing out the ones with the best seed development. You've got an eye, Sarah told her. Most first-timers miss the subtle quality indicators. My grandmother taught me to look. She taught you well. The final weight came to 1,100 pounds of seed, more than Nora had projected, better quality than she'd hoped. The check cleared the same week. She and Ray sat at the kitchen table that evening, looking at the number. We could pay off the tractor, Ray said, or invest in infrastructure for next year's planting. 20 acres is double the work. Worth it though. He took her hand, calloused palm against calloused palm. Yeah, it is. The co-op meeting in October had a different feel. Marcus Pemberton stood at the front, announcing winter planning, but his eyes kept drifting to Nora. Afterward, he approached her in the parking lot. Heard your harvest went well. It did. We'd be interested in discussing a contract for next season. If you wanted to scale up, we could. I have a contract already. With the seed people. Right. He shifted his weight. Look, I misjudged the market. These heritage varieties, there's more interest than I realized. Nora looked at him, really looked, and saw not an enemy but a man trapped in his own certainty, slowly learning what it cost him. Marcus, I'm not interested in proving you raw. I'm interested in growing good crops and finding good markets. You want to learn about heritage varieties, I'll share what I know. But I'm not coming back to the co-op just so you can feel better about missing this. She drove home as the sun dropped toward the mountains, the empty sunflower field passing on her right. Next year, it would be 20 acres. The year after, maybe more. The Heritage Seed Conservancy had other varieties waiting. Tomatoes her grandmother would have recognized, beans that dated to before agricultural consolidation, grains that carried stories in their genetic code. Nora Kelley had listened past the noise, trusted the old knowledge, and let the land show her what it wanted to grow. The vindication wasn't in Marcus's discomfort or the valley's surprise. It was in the soil itself, ready for next season, already holding the promise of what would come. The sunflowers had bloomed dark and beautiful, exactly as they were meant to, and Nora, as always, had simply done the work and let the truth grow in its own time.